Has Zelensky's ambition left East Ukraine exposed to the Russian onslaught? We are asking that question because despite Ukraine's thrust into Russia, Kyiv's forces have been on the defensive on its own turf. They are facing an uphill battle in the strategic eastern city of Pokrovsk, where Russia has steadily advanced in recent weeks. Russian troops are now around 10 kilometers, that's 6 miles from the city, in a situation that local Ukrainian authorities have described as extremely difficult. If Ukraine hoped that its incursion into Russia would relieve the pressure on the Eastern Front, it's clearly not working. Today, Ukraine's Air Force commander released a video showing an airstrike on a village east of Pokrovsk. On Monday, the Ukrainian military said that its troops were subjected to dozens of attacks by Russian forces around thwarts and Pokrovsk. Both are settlements in eastern Ukraine. In fact, the Ukrainian authorities claim that there were around 63 skirmishes on Monday around Pokrovsk. Here, the most intense fighting is underway with a record number of clashes reported last week. As a result, the Ukrainian authorities have issued an urgent order to the families with children to evacuate the city as soon as possible. Local authorities said that Russian forces are advancing so quickly that evacuations were necessary. Officials say that around 53,000 people still live in Pokrovsk. Others have already fled amid the Russian army's advances. In Pokrovsk, the Russian army is bearing down fast. You see, Ukraine's ambitious incursion into Russia's Kursk region has not really deterred the Russians from encircling the strategic eastern Ukrainian city. Pokrovsk is one of Ukraine's main defensive strongholds, as well as a key logistics hub in Donetsk region. If Russia were to capture this city, it would significantly compromise Ukraine's defensive capabilities as well as supply routes. And not just that. If Pokrovsk falls, it would basically bring the Russians closer to the stated war goal, that is the capture of the entire Donetsk region. After over 2 years of the war, Ukraine's war-battered troops are struggling to defend the Eastern Front. One of Ukraine's attempts to ease the pressure on its Eastern Front was to catch the Russians surprised on the 6th of August, when the Ukrainian troops launched the cross-border assault on Russia's Kursk region. They say that their goal was to unnerve the Russians and force them to split their military resources. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the daring incursion is to create a buffer zone that might prevent further attacks by Moscow across the border, especially with long-range artillery, missiles, glide bombs. But the thing is, hopes that Ukraine's incursion would relieve pressure on the eastern front line are not being realized, as the Russian troops are fast approaching Pokrovsk. You see, Russia's relentless 6-month slog across the Donetsk region follows the capture of another key city, Avdiivka. Remember, the battle for Avdiivka was one of the bloodiest in the 2-year war. It cost both Russia and Ukraine heavily in troops as well as armor. But the onslaught paid dividends for Russia, as the Ukrainian troops were left with no choice but to pull back from positions blown to pieces by the Russian artillery. What does Russia want? The entire Donbas region. Russia wants control of all parts of Donetsk and the neighboring Luhansk. Together, they make up the Donbas region. Before the war broke out in 2022, the Russian President Vladimir Putin had taken control of 2 pieces of Ukrainian territory: Crimea, which it had illegally annexed in 2014, and parts of 2 provinces in eastern Donbas region, where Russia had installed pro-Russian separatist leaders. Still, when Putin announced the special military operation, as they called it, into Ukraine in the year 2022, he basically suggested that he had little interest in seizing much territory. He said his goal was to protect the Russian-speaking population of Donetsk and Luhansk, which Russia had recognized as independent states just 3 days before the war. But his territorial plans remained ambiguous. In any case, it's clear that the Russian president has far greater territorial ambitions. The thrust towards Kharkiv in the east, the drive to create a land bridge between Crimea and Donbass, and the move towards Odessa all look like a part of an ambitious plan to control all of Ukraine east of the Dnipro River, which basically bifurcates the country. And if successful, Russia would have then fully controlled the Sea of Azov as well as the entire north shore of the Black Sea. And that could be very bad for landlocked Ukraine. And it seems like Putin really believes he can still achieve these goals. Therefore, Russia's recent gains on the battlefield near Kharkiv are sure to boost the Russian president's confidence. After 2 years of the war, Ukraine has managed to put a dent in Russia's military prowess. On Monday, Zelensky called on Putin's bluff, claiming that Ukraine's assault on Russia's Kursk region is proof that the Kremlin threats of retaliation were all a bluff. Ultimate success of Ukraine's cross-border incursion is far from certain. For now, Ukraine is paying the price for it in Pokrovsk. But the question is, how severe will Russia's revenge really be? Also, has Zelensky's ambition left eastern Ukraine completely exposed?
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.